Hey everyone, so today is Tuesday and we're doing our curriculum conversations. Thanks for being here. So we have gone over already the Good and the Beautiful levels 1 and 4, and then we've also done primary mathematics, which is the Singapore math. We've done some resources like handwriting without tears, spectrum reading, and then explode the code. So if any of those interest you, go check out my other videos. I talk about what I like about them, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and mostly I've gone over things right now that are things that we still use in our day-to-day. So today we're going to go back to language arts, and then also these are going to be supplementals. So things you can do over the summer, things you can add in if your child is struggling. We're going to talk about hooked on phonics. So I have early readers, they both started reading around 5. However, once we started getting into more complex words and rules, they struggled. They really liked when things made sense. And then when they started getting trickier, we sort of had a little bit slower of a progression. So I'm just going to go into some things that helped us get through some hurdles that we had as readers. So when it comes to phonics, like Hooked on Phonics, I love this program. So I did this program in the summertime with my oldest child, and we just did a lesson a day. So what I love about the Hooked on Phonics is that the lessons are not very long. So here's an example of lesson 1, and this is going to have a rule in it, and so it's going to have a phonics rule. So the phonics rule is at. So then we're learning the sound of the A and the T together. We're practicing the sound with the words that make that sound. And then this one is very early, so this is an emerging reader, so ages 4 to 6, kindergarten. But if you have an advanced child, then this might be a little easy. But your story that you would be reading for that lesson then follows that rule basically to a T. Then you'll have the second lesson, A and the N together, and so forth, and you'll have a story. Then at the end of each grouped lesson, so unit, you'll have a story that covers that unit. So then that story is going to go over many things that you learned in the lesson. And so what I love about this is that it has some pretty awesome things with it. It has a video that you can watch. I'm pretty sure you can also find it online if you don't have a DVD player. And this will just give you a lesson. So an example would be for the letter T, it has some singing, and they're singing the sounds of the letter T. And so this was such a good supplement when it came to our curriculum. At the time that I used Hooked on Phonics, we were doing all about reading. And so this was just our read on our own portion. So we would do the lessons in all about reading. And then when it came time to do, let's say 20 minutes of read on your own in first grade, I think it was like kindergarten and first grade, this was our read on our own. So we would do the lesson, and then we would either read the book in the lesson or we would read the book of the unit. And then by the end of even this most basic early lesson, you'll have a book that has sentences in there. And this unit then also came with the level 4, which then just plays off of level 3 and so forth. And I believe we went all the way through levels 7 and 8. And once we finished that, my son was ready to start reading chapter books. So I believe it really prepared him and gave him a foundation of reading with the rules. And then from the rules, we could start learning the things that no longer follow the rules. So super helpful in supplementing our reading and really adding just a foundation for him. Something else that I love for foundational reading is Bob's books. So I will just make one note that the early reader, I believe it's called A to Z Bob's book, like it's my first Bob's book. I do not recommend that as an early reader. It's the alphabet, and within the alphabet, the words are extremely challenging for somebody who actually is a very early reader. But if you start here, so for example, on the back, it says my first Bob's book pre-reading skills. I'm not so sure that I appreciated what they had for an early reader in there. I remember having one book was like letters A and B, and then the words in there were like alligator. And I was like, okay, well, maybe, but if you have a really early reader, you really want to start with basics like the sound at for phonics, and then you have cat, bat, sat, mat, and build from there versus jumping into these more complex words. However, we started at, let's see, advanced beginner. So this was like emerging reader. So we didn't do reading readiness or stage 1. So I can't really speak on those, but we did start with advanced reader, which felt like kindergarten level. And then we moved into sight word kindergarten, animal stories, we skipped. We did sight word first grade and moved all the way through the long vowels. What I love about that is, for example, this is set 4. It is complex words. This is a developing reader. And for example, each book has a little list on the back that says, we are blending WH, CH, and SH within this book. And that comes up again and again. I believe the book that we actually read today, because we're doing some summer reading, had the sound IT, so IGHT in it. And then it continued to say sight, light. It was about a moonlight, and that word kept repeating itself throughout the story. So by the end of the book that we read, which these books are maybe 10 to 12 pages long, and this is, I would say, complex words is going to be first grade going into second grade, first grade for an advanced reader, maybe even a kindergartner, developing reader. And then, yeah, I would say it probably ends about at the end of first grade, but I will say my going into second grader is reading them over the summertime, and he'll be done with all of the boxes by the time we enter second grade. But mostly the sentences are pretty short, but we will find that it gives you a good challenge. And we're moving from like 1 sentence to 2 sentences within the story. And then we have some more complex, maybe smaller paragraph feeling pages in there. And I love this because as you move along through the books, and maybe even the stage 1 and starting to move through, by the time you get done, it really does feel like a sense of foundation in the rules and the blends of the letters and the vowels and everything. So this one says, this one's the second to last book. Longer books, more complex words engaging a young reader, new blends, more sight words, longer compound words, advanced reader skills, while sounding out repetition throughout the book. The only thing I would say my kids don't totally enjoy is the very basic pictures. As a homeschool mom, I like the very basic pictures because I think it creates a less distracting place for my child to read. And also it leaves them not totally guessing based off of the picture and having to really read the words. But that would be the only complaint from my kiddos. When they have to pick a book to read, I would say this book for my 7-year-old. So he's a spring birthday, so he's definitely more of a really young going into second grader. I would say this book probably takes him about 10 to 15 minutes to read, which is just at the threshold of him wanting to be done so he can complete it and feel like he finished it. So these are just some resources that we love to do for language arts. I always find that math is very easy to follow one curriculum and work throughout that book almost the entire year, with maybe adding some computer games and some IXL and some extra things like that, but not too deeply. But when it comes to language arts, even if we're following a full curriculum, for my kids specifically, after about 6, 7, 8 weeks of working in that curriculum, they definitely like to have a change, a different style of writing. So for us, we're doing the Good and the Beautiful box of books, and we started this with the summer reading, and now we've moved to Bob's books just to give him a different change of pace and not the same style of art, illustrations, and the way that the writer writes. So we always love to add some other supplemental things in there without breaking the budget. Hooked on Phonics you can usually find on Facebook Marketplace, as there's no writing in this I wouldn't say curriculum, but in this resource. So a lot of people will secondhand sell these because you don't mess them up at all. There's a star picture sticker page that you can put on each lesson as you complete it. We didn't use that. My kids don't like rewarded by stickers. It's not motivating for them. But that would be the only thing that somebody uses in here that you might not get if you buy it secondhand. But even if you buy it off Amazon, let's say, for example, pretty affordable, I would say, for the 2 boxes. So you're getting levels 3 and 4 in this one. It's $35 to $45. And then Bob's Books, you can absolutely find this on Facebook Marketplace just as an added resource and supplement for your homeschooling. So yeah, thank you for joining me today. If you want to see more videos about curriculum, I'm going to start adding more curriculum, but also shifting gears and talking about how we have our lesson plans, our rhythm, and what our homeschooling day looks like, just to give some perspectives on what we do. I have had a lot of people who want to homeschool that don't feel like they can, and I really want to turn this page into a place of encouraging moms and dads to take, empowerment in homeschooling their child. So if you want to see more, like and subscribe below, and I'll see you next Tuesday for some more curriculum conversations. Thanks for joining.